All right, so today we're starting the closet build, and so the jigsaw puzzle of this thing is we had to finish these doors, and so a lot of this door was determined by how far can we make this, how much door can we fit in here and still slide in and out like this. That was one of the puzzles. The other one was when this comes straight across, we need it to meet exactly with the striker on the other side so that there's no gap, and so you can't, no light gets through and stuff like that. And so we thought we had to build this first and then we'll go and build this. And so that meets up with the other cabinets, which these were determined by the size of the refrigerator. And so the size of the refrigerator then determined the size of the pantry, which determined the size of the little tiny broom closet. But in here, we wanted to have a little bit more space. Our closet is going to be here, and we didn't feel we needed it to be quite as wide, so we thought, okay, how small can we make it? We took hangers and kind of, how small can we make this space while still hanging a shirt and a pair of pants and things like that. So we did that, and we determined that we could lose about 4 inches or so and still be fine with the closet and the drawers and everything like that. And so we've made this space a little bit smaller. And so now we're going to go through and we're going to start making the walls that are going to meet up with these doors. And so that is the project for today. We're not terribly skilled at carpentry or with woodworking, so we're still learning those skills and still trying to hone those types of skills. We've gotten a little bit better. We built these doors and they turned out pretty well, but we're gonna try our best to make everything square and fit. We will be using, there's these large screw holes in our bus that were made for a rail, and they're very strong, and so we're gonna be using those and then going into the metal wherever we can. But unfortunately the bus has kind of a curvature like that, so if we get a straight edge and we kind of put it on the edge here, you can see there's a gap there about the size of my finger. So we're gonna have to build in some little spacers and things like that so that we have a nice flush surface, and we're obviously gonna finish the insulation on the back here, but we have a nice flush surface to be able to make a clean start at making things square. And so that's what we'll be working on now. We'll see how it goes. All right, so we're getting ready to do the closet here, and we've cut this piece purposefully about 1.5 inches too long, because we know nothing in here is perfectly square, and that was the reason that we needed to make this door. And so when we close this up, in an ideal world, if we could get the top to touch, the bottom would be touching as well. But we're not in an ideal world, we're in a bus. So it's probably the floor doing some kind of leaning, but it doesn't matter. We have to account for it. So what we did is we really want the door to close about right there. And so now what we'll do is we'll draw a line all the way up, and that way we know it's going to meet exactly with this door. So we're going to go through, and we haven't yet made it square this way or that way, but when we finish all that up and we get it all as square up and down as we can and as square to this wall as we can, we'll go ahead and mark our line, and then we will cut that straight line, and then when we bring the doors together, it'll meet exactly the way it's supposed to. See, if we would have said, oh, we'll just build it to a 90, we have a, maybe a 1/2 inch opening or so at the bottom, maybe a little bit more. So anyway, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go ahead and square this up and get it all ready, and then mark that line and then give it a cut.
Okay, so now that we have our line that tells us what the little slight angle is of the edge of our pocket door, we're actually measuring out 3/4 of an inch away from this line, because we're gonna have, that'll account for our, like, the door jamb. Okay, so we just, we cut this back closet wall, and we just temporarily stuck a piece of 3/4 in just to kind of mock up the face frame. And we slid that pocket door closed. Everything is just kind of pinned in, just held up right now. Nothing's secured, but it looks like it's lining up really well with the pocket door. So I think we are good to go.
All right, so a couple things on these walls. One is, how did we get this curve? And that is, in the previous owner's build, when we took that down, he had a few 3/4 inch walls. Actually, I think they were like 1/2 inch walls, or a little bit thicker, but not much. They weren't quite 3/4. But he had this kind of arrangement here, and the walls had fit pretty well. And so what we did is we took that and we've used that as a template, and we've fine-tuned it a little bit and kind of made our own adjustments to it. But we've been using that basically as a template for the last 3-4 walls we've built, and it's been working out pretty well. So the other thing is, we are putting in our walls before we put in our ceiling, and I know a lot of people often do that the other way around. They'll put their ceiling in first and then fit their walls. The problem with that is, with the planked ceiling, it's really hard to get this curve to match that kind of stepped planked profile. And so what we've done is, we figure if we put the doors in first and then we'll butt our ceiling, so if you look at it, we'll butt our ceiling into the wall like that. And so that way, once the thing, you get a ceiling all the way down, and then you get a nice finished edge right at the corner, just like that. And so that's kind of what we're hoping for, is that we can do it that way. And so there are advantages to doing it the other way. If we put the ceiling up first, then in theory we could take out a wall and move it somewhere else if it didn't suit our needs. But we figured if we're going that far, we're tearing down walls, we're probably tearing down the ceiling too. So anyway, that's a little bit into how we're going to build these things out. That was one of the reasons for doing this first, was we thought that we could get a much better finish doing something like this and then attaching here than we could the other way. So we'll see if it works out. It's kind of an experiment. Alright, so we've got the sides propped up right now, but we've measured them all out so that it's as square as we can possibly get it. It isn't 100% square because we had to match them to the doors, but we did make this a perfect square, surprisingly enough. And so now we've got this piece in, we've just put one piece, and then we are going to make another piece here. So the way we're securing these is, I think we'd mentioned these before, we've got these big bolts that go into here, and that was where, when they were Greyhound bus, the overhead compartment was secured into there. So it's very, it can hold a lot of weight. And so we're securing them there. And then down at the bottom, we've got these vertical guys here. So we'll drill into there, and then we'll also drill into here. The problem here is we've got a little gap. And so we told you that the bus, so if I push it against this board down here, there's still, about a finger's width. So probably about 1/2 inch of gap in there. And so we're gonna take that exact measurement and then plane down the board to be that exact width, so that we can secure it through there as well. There. Okay,
there?
Yep, what do we got for measurement? Whoops. So about just over ½ inch, 0.585. Alright, so we're continuing work on the cabinet. We've got this shelf here that divides the drawer space from the upper cabinet space. And so in the bottom, we know that we're going to have, what we decided is we're going to have 3 drawers on each side. So there's 6 of us, so it makes sense that we'd have 6 drawers. We'll each have one, and they'll be good. They'll be very large drawers, so we think that'll be pretty good for clothes storage. And so we'll each have one, and so we've made a support for the center that will serve a couple purposes. It will reinforce this piece here, which is 3/4 inch plywood. It's pretty strong, but you know, putting a reinforcement in the center is going to make it way stronger. You could probably lay down in here after that's done. It will also serve as a place where we build spacers out from to put the drawer slides in. We're going to get the center support in, and then we're going to start planning out these big overhead shelf supports.
I'm not pushing on this side that you're drilling on. Gotta push over here?
You gotta push against the stop.
I know.
Yeah. Alright, so we finished the uprights, the sides of the inside of the closet. We drilled pinholes for the shelf to sit on, and it's adjustable so we can pull the shelves out if we need a different configuration. We put it in with pocket holes on the back side and on the bottom, and now we're getting ready to put in the roof, and so, or put in the ceiling. So the ceiling, and this is how we're going to do our upper ceiling, is what we're thinking is we'll use 1/2 inch ply, and we've chamfered a 45 into the edge to sort of to give it the tongue and groove look, or the planked look. So so you can see those fit right in there. And then with these, the way we're going to fasten them is, that's why we have these furring strips. So we're actually going to glue them to the furring strips and then drive nails like finishing or brad nails into here to kind of hold them while the wood dry or while the glue dries. Alright, so we are finished with phase 1 of this closet. So we have the bottom shelf that separates the drawers from the cabinet space. We've got the 2 dividers up, and we've used this closet to sort of as an experiment for, is this how we want to do our ceiling? And it worked out pretty well. As you can see, there is, you know, a pretty clean line. This would have been very difficult to do, to cut into the side piece. Another additional benefit to doing it this way is it holds this piece now very securely with the roofs that are, with the ceiling tiles that are tied in and glued and everything. So this now becomes very stiff and it's held really well up top. In addition, on these, we've also made a metal bracket here just to provide additional support for this top piece. Just on the ends, we did both the ends that way just to make them really secure. So we've got our 3 kind of main sections. This, as we mentioned before, is a hanging section for clothes. This will be reconfigurable shelves. So we'll have shelves in here. And then this one is going to be the charging center for laptops, cell phones, tablets, all of that will go in here. So they'll be real small, kind of 4-inch shelves all the way to the top that will have plugs in the very back. So we're pretty happy with the way it turned out. We actually really like the way that the ceiling turned out, and so I think that's the way this is what we were planning on doing. So we use this as an experiment, and I think we're gonna go ahead and use that throughout the bus because it makes a very clean seam where it meets the wall. So we're pretty happy with it. So next steps are we're gonna be creating face frames for these. We're also going to be creating the strike plate for the sliding doors on both sides. That'll actually probably be the first thing because this strike plate comes out and that kind of defines how the face frame will be created. So that's what we'll be tackling next.